Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Bigfoot Notes from the Field Blab, our chat. We have some interesting stuff going on tonight. First thing, of course, go to the website, williamjevning.com. Join up. Hopefully, I'm still working on getting the newsletter out there. So, sign up for that. I think we have around 550 people already signed up for that. So, if anybody's listening that signed up, have patience. It'll be out there soon. I know some articles are already written, and we're just waiting for some of the technical stuff to get them posted. I don't know if I mentioned last week. I think I did that. I finished volume 8 of Bigfoot Fieldwork 101. I should be getting the proof copy any day now. As soon as I get it, it looks all right, I'm going to approve that. It'll be out there. So we're talking about the last volume of that series is on safety, and that's what we're talking about this evening. And to highlight that, I was just telling Joe and Milo, there was a situation that happened just a couple of days ago. TW sent me a text while I was at work, and he said, hey, ABC happened, and he sent you the same thing, Joe. Now you guys are all saying, hey, you need to call TW. So I got a hold of him when I got home from work. And in a nutshell, the situation had happened, and I can't remember. I don't know if you remember how he knows the guy, if he's a friend or just an acquaintance.
Yeah.
But the guy had a situation. This was several months ago where, and I can't remember the exact details of it, but he was fairly close to one of these things, or it came close to him, and water hose, and he sprayed the thing with the water hose. Probably not the smartest thing to do, yeah. But and I don't know if the two situations are connected at all, but. The guy was gone for a couple of months on business or something, but these things had been taking food items from around his property. And of course, when he was gone, the food items dried up, and these things, we do know that if they're taking food or being fed and then all of a sudden that's cut off, it really ticks them off. There can be some real violent reactions due to that. So
apparently, if they're sitting there biting fingers off.
Yeah, well, what happened was the guy woke up, and he said that, apparently the guy, because of where he lives, he doesn't lock his doors. And now these things aren't known for going up and twisting a doorknob and opening the door, or even coming in a house very often for that matter. But Apparently this one figured out or got the door open. It was in his house. When he woke up, it was standing over him in his bed. And it's unknown whether it was waiting for him to wake up or that just happened to be how it happened. But when he woke up, the thing starts beating the hell out of him, and he fought back. And during the scuffle, it bit one of his fingers off, and I guess messed up one of his eyes really bad. He called TW from the hospital, so he wasn't in good shape. So TW decided to take some friends, his buddies, and I don't know if they were cops also, but they went out there. The feds, who deal with this stuff were already there. And they told him, one of the guys that he's gotten to know of this duo, told him, he said, you can come in, you can't take pictures. The other guys got to wait outside. This thing, apparently after it throttled him pretty good, mauled him, and bit his finger off, proceeded to tear the house completely apart inside. Did a real job on it. So the latest word, and hopefully we'll hear from TW at some point here during the next hour, that, hey, there's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
That neither the guy that was beat up or his son will respond to TW now. So, that's all we know, that situation so far. But, everybody likes to talk about these things. You look on Facebook and elsewhere that, they're not going to hurt anybody. They're this, they're that.
Yeah.
They're wild creatures. And we have people these days don't seem to have a healthy respect for wildlife. Of course, there's, the awful thing that happened just a day or two ago in Florida, the little boy that was killed by the alligator in Disney World. There's the couple in Alaska that thought they knew brown bears, and now they're brown bear poop because the bears ate them.
Sorry to laugh.
No, I mean,
but you're right.
But it's true. I mean, and there's example after example of these people who think they know better. The lady in Southern California, I think San Diego or wherever it was, they called her the Tiger Whisperer or whatever. She got mauled and killed by a tiger. I mean, there's all these examples we can find where people think they know better about wild creatures, and then something tragic happens to them. So, with these things, this recent situation here is a prime example of that. They do stuff just like any other wild creature. You can't, make crazy assumptions that, they look kind of like us, so they must be like us. That seems to be the, prevailing thought out there.
It's crazy. I mean, I think in Yellowstone, somebody went up to pet a bison, and then it just gouged them, and they wonder why. Yeah,
there's tons of examples like that. It's crazy,
Yeah, it's funny because it's some groups. I mean, people will get like really, really pissed if you say that they're animals.
They
get really offended.
Well, they're not your pet dog.
Yeah, And man, I've seen people write on there that they play with them in the middle of the night and things like that. I'm like, man, you guys are smoking something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. When I see stuff like that, I'm thinking, ooh, boy, I don't know what they're putting in their water, but I don't want any of it.
Fluoride.
Fluoride.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where that thinking comes from. I've seen it, or like they have these things. I interviewed, and one of the things I was going to mention too. We're only about a couple of weeks from the new podcast I'm going to launch, and I decided to call it "Witness of the Unknown." The name I had chosen before wasn't all that great, so and it's all right now. It's all witness interviews, of Sasquatch encounters. So I was interviewing a gentleman today, as a matter of fact, a couple hours ago. And some of the encounters that he had were like this. I mean, he had encountered one of these creatures, and apparently his mother, growing up, had some adverse things that happened, to her with this particular female Sasquatch. Apparently didn't like them and would come up and do things to the house, and it was some pretty creepy things that it was doing. There was a male there also, but it didn't really do the same kinds of things the female did. The female obviously had a really nasty temperament or disposition, and they eventually.
It was the time of the month.
They were scared enough over a number of years with all these things going on that they left the property, they left the home, and apparently whoever bought it afterwards continued having these kinds of encounters. So, these things are notorious for having nasty dispositions. So. And I'm sure, I know you guys, and Joe especially, you've heard similar kinds of stories.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you're talking about the same guy that we probably both know, the one you put me in contact with.
Right.
Okay, yeah. He's telling me some crazy stories, man, about that female.
Yeah.
And he said that female was just, he had a special name for her. I don't want to say it over here.
You didn't share that one with me, but...
Yeah, it was a bad name, but it was pretty funny. He was mean.
Yeah, exactly. And one of I contacted our friend Mr. Black after TW told me what happened, and because we were trying to sort of figure out what was going on, why it would have done that, and Mr. Black said he related that there were several occasions that he knew about. Apparently, it has to do with this food stuff. If they're being fed. Which really cracks me up when these people say, "Oh, well, they're leaving all this food out there for them," and you tell people don't do that because they get used to that. Look what happens with bears. Yellowstone was a good place where people used to feed bears out of their cars all the time, and then when they didn't get food, the bears would rip dark corridors off and things like that. They weren't very happy about no longer getting the handouts. And animals will do that. These guys are notorious for that. I know in the South, a lot of people that I've spoken to from that part of the country, and it was well known, quietly in those states that you don't feed the boogers because if you stop feeding them, they get really nasty and can be dangerous. So that's one of these things, and again, that's what happened. And he said that's what happened in this situation. He wasn't doing it directly apparently, but there was enough foodstuffs lying around outside of his home that these things were taking periodically. Then when he was gone for a couple months, there was no longer these food supplies, and it kind of pissed him off. So that was Mr. Black's thinking and this was based on previous situations that he knew about also that were nearly identical.
Bill?
Yeah.
Hey, where was that? I mean, was it rural? Was it out in the mountains or high desert?
It was out in a forested area. I don't want to say the state or anything, but it was out in an area where there's a lot of elk.
Right.
And I think Joe, I don't know how familiar you are with that area, but it's heavily forested. And the guy's place wasn't near other people's, I don't know if it's a farm or a ranch or what it is he has out there, but I mean, that one apparently has a particularly nasty disposition. Mr. Black also said, well, actually, no, TW said he was theorizing that it might have been, a reaction. Maybe it was a juvenile that he sprayed with the water hose, and it was the adult that came to teach him a lesson. But Mr. Black said no, that it's pretty typical if they're used to getting food from a human habitation area and then it's cut off, there can be some very violent situations happen. It's like another example of that's where I had some people putting out salt and mineral blocks, and they were taken on a couple of different runs we tested, and then the third time nothing was taken. Well, as I come to find out, TW talked to one of these feds that came down there that deal with this stuff specifically, and they told him, they said, don't put stuff out for these things. He says you don't want them around any longer than they're going to be around an area. He said they took some of them, we took the rest of them. So the results on all that were really mixed. We didn't really get any solid results from those series of tests because the feds were taking the blocks. But they told him point blank, they said they will, they track them, but you don't want them to be around because when you stop leaving them out there, then it pisses them off, then you get some violent reactions.
That is crazy.
Yeah, well, down in Florida, it's illegal to feed alligators for the same reason, basically.
It'll keep them coming around.
Yeah, because once people... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't personally. I don't want anything that has the potential for being violent to keep coming around.
Well, my mother-in-law at the ocean. I mean, she has bears come right up onto the deck.
Oh yeah, I can believe it.
Right on the deck, and it's climbing up a flight of stairs to get there.
Yeah, I saw something on TV the other day that was. It was some kind of a show that was going to be coming on or whatever, and it showed these bears climbing up on people's, in their houses and things, looking for food. They were getting in garbage, getting in dog food, stuff like that. And then, like with any animal, I mean, you could be, you could go out there and have a bad confrontation. I know when I was a kid, when I was 10, we ran into a black bear down by the swamp behind our property on the Puyallup River, and it was there after beehives that a friend of my dad's had out there. Thank goodness, it was after the beehives and not kids. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now. So, but it tore the beehives apart, took the honey, and they, we hunted the bear, but it was gone. We never did find it.
Yeah. I mean, I went up to Mount Rainier once, and in an hour I saw a black bear, a red fox, and a deer. Just like that, going up to Snow Lake.
There's a place here in Northern California I go to, one of my favorite field locations. We see black bear in there all the time, every time we go in there. And they're always, between 300 and 400 pound bears. So they're big. There's a lot of animals up there. And mostly, you usually don't see the predators. They're the ones that keep out of sight. And these things are kind of the same way. But you know, so safety wise, you know, feeding them is not a good thing. You don't want to do that. And these people, I know they think they're Jane Goodall or whoever out there, you know, trying to do things like, you know, expert researchers spent decades doing with, you know, known animals. If this is something that's not known, I recommend everybody stay the hell away from them. You know, there's a certain approach you do to things, and going out there and offering them. Hey, there was the old guy, and used to crack me up. The old timer. Some people might know the name Datus Perry. Datus Perry kind of looked like a homeless guy, and sort of lived on the verge of that. But he lived with his ex-wife, and they had a house that was, you know, not very good condition or anything. But he was in his 80s when I knew him, and he'd always say, you know, well, maybe if you hold a flower up to the Bigfoot like this, he'll, you know, be your friend or whatever. And I thought, you know, man, you're going to be, you know, Bigfoot poop out here one of these days, because, you know, they're not interested in the flower, maybe to as garnishment around you when you're their happy meal, but but you know, when you again, like we've talked about this before, when you look at the stories, the bulk of them are not friendly encounters. Usually they're very neutral encounters, or there's a degree of hostility of one type or another involved with the story. So, and even the neutral ones are usually them, you know, it's just a quick sighting alongside the road, or they're heading off in another direction. But, you know, these direct encounters usually are not very good.
Right. Yeah. That's probably the first time I ever heard it going into the house.
It's rare.
You know, where that violent. That's like Hollywood, man. I mean, that's like scary.
Oh, it's crazy.
In your shorts.
Yeah, that's,
you know, changing your shorts action there.
That's the underwear changing moment deal there. See, that's that's the underwear changing moment. So
I know.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You know, now I'm thinking about it too. I think.
So are they down there right now trying to talk to this guy, or?
Well, he's tried to get the guy phone calls and everything, and they won't respond to him. So I knew the feds were there, and they've been working that area because this group that's been in the region are apparently fairly violent. It could very well be the same group even that TB and the deputy sheriff encountered, you know, last year, where, you know, the Alpha apparently was behind the police cruiser and roared at him. It didn't just scream; it roared. You know, some people describe it as a lion roar. It scared him. It scared them both so bad the deputy pissed all over himself. So, you know, I mean, that's a pretty frightening situation. And they were texting me while this was going on, and I told them, I said, you need to get the hell out of there right now. You know, get to a Denny's or someplace where you can have coffee, get the poor deputy changed, get calmed down, you know, finish out your night's duties, but you need to get out of there. And then, of course, he found out later that these two feds were there. They were camouflaged. They were filming and audio recording everything that happened with the cops. So, I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, let me send Milo this.
Well, you don't have to do that now, man.
I already did it.
Right.
It's all right.
You know,
that's okay. If I stop talking, you guys can talk too. It's all right. I talk too much sometimes.
Oh, well, thank God for that. I enjoy that. But you know what's amazing is how fast the feds were there.
Yeah,
or were they always there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's some places that are real hot spots all over the continent, and I'm sure some of those places they monitor pretty regularly. But I'm trying to think how to say this where, you know, I don't give away my sources. I mean, they have ways of knowing what's going on very, very quickly. So I probably better leave it at that. You know, so until I talk to Mr. Black some more in detail about that particular part. But you know, they do monitor these things, and they have ways of monitoring them and what's going on with them. So, and they have ways of chasing them out of the area. And I would suspect with that kind of behavior, since it actually went into a guy's house. I mean, he's damn lucky it didn't kill him. But it's right at that threshold of that kind of behavior. So my guess is they'll probably, and like he said, there's SF teams at some of the military bases scattered around, much more than it used to be. And Milo, you and I both know that they have them all over the place now. It's not just Bragg and places like that. Right. And I think the closest one to that region would be Fort Bliss, and he said there's a team there. So they've probably already that close, they've probably already sent them in, with the attempt to kill one or more of that group. So, once they start moving towards that kind of behavior, I'm sure they can't tolerate allowing that to happen, because at some point somebody's going to die.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's kind of like when you get stung by a bee, you go after that crap, and family members and stuff. Once that happens, it's a feud, man.
And humans, that's what we do anyway. If something comes after us in any way, it's like, like the thing in Florida with the little boy. I'm sure they went and got what they say they got 5 alligators that were in the lake there. And I don't know if that's how many were there total, but I doubt those alligators are alive. So and even I always use the example of dog bites. Oh, we have just up in Appalachians, I saw a 9 to 10 foot hairy ape thing, really scary. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely. If anybody says they weren't scared when they saw a Sasquatch, they didn't see a Sasquatch. We get these people say, oh, well, geez, I go out and I talk with the big guy at night and I share things. What a bunch of crap that is. There's nobody in their right mind that's going to walk up to something that's that big and try to be its pal. I guarantee you that from having seen one of these things, there is no damn way somebody's going to do that. He says, in my room, out my window. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. I mean, it's one of those things it scares the living hell out of you. There is nothing. I don't know how to equate it to anything, that people could relate to. I mean, everybody's had a scary situation or two in their lives of one kind or another. When you confront one of these things, I mean, when I say it's an underwear changing moment, it's pretty damn close. And some people I know of, it's actually happens where they've crapped themselves or they wet themselves or whatever. I mean, it's never a situation where, oh, isn't that cool? I think I'd like to go talk to that thing. Oh yeah, he's the hell if I will have the wits to stand my ground. Can I ask what we should do, especially with my autistic brother who's scared? Probably the best thing you can do is if you are that scared. I mean, one of the reactions is you do stand your ground, or inadvertently. I know in my own situation, I walked in on that thing in the tree line, and it was a what the hell moment. Of course, that wasn't exactly what was on my mind at the moment, but you freeze, and all this stuff. And I mean, unless you're just sheer terror and you take off running, which is a lot of times what happens. But some people, if you're like me, you're just hit with so many things at one time, you kind of freeze. And when you freeze, these things, it kind of throws them off a little bit. Or like, in gorillas, I was reading today about gorillas again, because I'm working on the next Bigfoot 101 series book, profiling your area. And part of that is looking to see what different primates do and other animals do in their environments, and the kinds of things we need to look for to profile an area properly. But it talks about how gorillas almost every single time will charge. They'll do a mock charge, and these things do mock charges. He says, John says, be same thing as encountering a lion. Yeah, it'd be right up there with that. I mean, I guess because of the sheer size, And the fact that it's so far outside of most people's frame of reference, you just freeze up. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to think. And then fear sets in because you realize that this thing isn't running. It doesn't look happy. And sometimes they'll even move in your direction or do menacing things. So then it really, it's just sheer terror, really, what sets in.
Yeah, you got that fight or flight mode going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. I think you freeze for a moment, and then you do one of those two things. And you see something that big, fighting is sure as hell not something you're not thinking about doing. You want to get out of there.
Well, I think a lot of it is, it's just like being in combat. More or less, it's not that it's never going to be
oh, Milo's slowing down. There he is.
I'm not going to say this right offhand, but what you have to understand is any decision you make is the right, because there is no second guessing after it happens. No one else is. The armchair tactics people out there, the armchair generals. Even when I'm in combat, somebody's going to say, "Well, you should have did this. You should have been out here." Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. How can you tell the between a lock charge and not seconds count? And Don says, "You're alive after a bluff charge." Well, that's pretty much it. Like Milo said, you have seconds, and usually what happens, and I always, one of my favorite stories is the old Hugh Brown one from 1988, and I've told it a bunch of times, so I'm not going to recount the whole thing, but Hugh stood there. The thing had been screaming as it was coming up the ridgeline at him and his friend. His friend took off, and when it came out of the trees after the deer and everything, Hugh was in shock, and he said afterwards, he says, I must have been in shock more than I thought, because I just stood there and the thing ran directly at him, and then because he stood his ground inadvertently, it stopped. They stood there looking at each other for a few moments, then it kind of looked bored and walked away. Gorillas are kind of the same way. If you stand your ground, they come to a screeching halt, a distance from you, and they kind of eyeball you, and then, I guess determine you're not a threat or whatever, and then off they go, hopefully. Running is not a good thing because, then you might get mauled. But I think in most cases you don't really have a choice. Oh, I think Milo's having trouble with his computer. I just don't think it's much of a choice in most cases. I think our instincts sort of take over at that point.
Yeah, I know there's this one video on YouTube where it shows that I can see like a park ranger in Africa.
Yeah,
a gorilla charges them. it goes right up.
It's crazy, isn't it? Can you imagine something like that?
Is when any of that happens, it's like when we do stuff in the military, we do things break its neck.
Slipping and falling on the trail of crap I leave behind me. But I just don't think I don't think in most cases you'd have the option to think about, oh, should I stay here or should I run? That's not what goes through your mind. It's just a reaction. Right. You either do or you don't.
Well, I think if you're out there, number one, hunting this, you should be prepared. You're not going out there with your knapsack and, I think if you're out there with the dead, with the idea of going hunting for one, you should be prepared.
Yeah. You better be prepared.
If you're prepared. I think a lot of it is.
Yeah, really, running's not going to do you any good. You have to outrun it.
I'll take my shotgun and double, I'll alternate my loads.
As Coyote Man says, take someone you can outrun. That's right. You have to take the bait, take somebody with you that that's not going to run faster than you. And I used to take a friend of mine, Jack, with me all the time, and I could outrun him. And he used to say, well, at least take pictures, make me famous. And I said, don't worry, buddy, I'll make sure you're famous. We'll take care of you, But what do you do in that situation? And like Don said, if you're alive afterwards, then you did the right thing. There really isn't. You be prepared. Like Milo said, never be alone. If you're in, 2 or more people, you stand a much better chance. You can have things on you like bear mace. I recommend taking bear mace. Take a couple of road flares. Something you learn in the military is fire. Fire is a good friend. If you have the chance to strike up that thing, it's sort of a course of last resort, basically. But at least it'll make you feel better if you got a couple of road flares in your pocket or your pack or whatever. Being in numbers.
My grandfather used to have
the bear mace if you're armed.
My grandfather
and I'll tell you something I learned from people like Mr. Black. These things, and I always think about all the times I've been out. Thousands of times carrying, and Dehinden always told me carry at least 2 cameras. So I've always got 2 cameras strung around my neck, with big telephoto lenses and stuff. And Mr. Black said that these things perceive those as weapons, as guns, the cameras. So in some ways that sort of, may have prevented my being actually, in a situation to encounter one and take pictures, because they would perceive those as weapons. So, very intelligent creatures. They, and that's something Mr. Black also said. He says, being they're a higher primate, obviously, and my belief is that they are a hominid, which is what we are. And there were numerous other hominids that have existed in the past. So while not being human, they don't have to be human to be intelligent, with reasoning abilities and things like that. One thing he said that they observed these things actually doing or conducting what almost appeared to be like military style maneuvering, but chimps do that when they hunt, and it looks very similar to that. So, but they're not stupid. So looking at us and viewing us as a threat, which, I'm sure they rightly do, when they see things on us or around us, that could be an advantage. If you got a camera, that's with a big telephoto lens or whatever, that could work in your favor. There's just some tricks, but always numbers. If there are more of you than them, that's a big thing. Looks like TW finally got up here. I think Milo's having computer problems. He's awfully still there. Yeah.
Hey, Will.
What?
Is that oh
yes.
Is that Milo from
yes to your question?
Is that Milo?
Yeah.
Am I moving?
Is that Milo from the book? The Clark Ranch?
Oh, there's TW. I don't know what's happened to Milo. Let's see. I don't know if his computer froze up, I think. Let me see if he can. Oh, we lost him. Well, all right. Well, I guess. Oh, there's TW. Okay, we'll see if we can get him on here. See if he'll talk about. He'll talk about what happened. There he is.
Not
what's
much.
Going on,
just
TW?
enjoying the nice weather in northern New Mexico.
We were chatting a little bit about that incident.
I got
happened down there.
Like I told Will earlier, I got a friend of mine that's been having some incidents happen out at his place where at one point he actually had sprayed one down with a water hose. Well,
I can't remember the details of that. How did that come about? I mean, what did it just accidental happening? Did the thing walk up on him when he was doing something in the garden, or
tomato plants? And he heard something behind him, and there it was, and he just knee-jerk reaction, raised the water hose and sprayed it down, which probably wasn't his most stellar moment for brilliancy, but no,
probably not the best thing to do.
But he had an incident Sunday morning, Saturday night, where not to go into too great a detail, actually the thing had walked into his house, and it wasn't a pleasant encounter. So right now I can't get a hold of John or his son, so I don't know what the hell's going on.
I mentioned to everyone about just some of the particulars. You know, the guy that was standing over him when he woke up and then proceeded to beat the crap out of him, and
it woke him up out of a dead sleep. He started smelling something really nasty, and he kind of rolled over, and there it was. It jumped right on top of him. So, and it actually picked him up out of his bed and threw him to the wall. So, and John's not a small man. You know, he's like 6'5". He's a tall guy. Probably weighs a little bit more than I do, or maybe 40 pounds less, somewhere in there. But it wasn't a appearance. And even at one point, the rationale behind it is that he's probably in the front.
Oh, we're losing some audio on your part there, TW. Yeah. I think so. That's it. They know he's on here and got to talk, and they're saying, yeah.
Hey, Will, I got a question about that. How did it break, or how did it get inside the house?
Well,
did it break the door down, or did it actually open it?
If TW gets back on, maybe he can shed some light on that. But all I know was that the guy didn't lock his doors, and somehow it gained access through one of the doors. So, but these guys, you know, I mean, if you look back at the old film Legend of Boggy Creek, I'm familiar with that. There was one of the scenes where the thing was up on the porch, and there were the two couples and the boy inside the house, and the thing reached through the window, and apparently had been messing with the doorknob. And I know of a number of occasions, even with the miners at Mount St. Helens, you know, the things were trying to get in. They were trying to get into the door. And I know of a number of other occasions. I've actually investigated buildings where these things had scratched on the side of the building, and the people inside told me that the thing was trying to mess with the door handle, not successfully. And one of the I've spoken with a few anthropologists and that about, you know, hands and things, and they probably very likely do not have an opposable thumb like we do. They have more of a hand that's designed more like an ape's hand. And even using an opposable thumb to do something like open a door. Now, if it's a handle, you know, they could, you know, push down the handle and the door would open. And it's possible they might be able to get their hand around the doorknob and do something. It depends on the doorknob and the condition of it. But so we don't know. I mean, it may have somehow it got the door open,
and it got in.
Opened the door. Yeah. Do you know if it ripped the door open, or if it manipulated the apparatus to open
there was
the
no
door?
Damage to the house where it made entry. So
okay, so it fiddled around with the knob or the latch and got the door open.
Exactly. So, you know, and it's got a traditional doorknob.
I was going to ask if it had a regular doorknob or one of those, you know, that you just push down.
The lever handle doorknobs? No, it had a traditional doorknob.
Okay, so it played with it and figured out how to open it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, and the thing is that it thoroughly destroyed the house. I mean, at least the inside. There was some definite damage. His bedroom was, I mean,
so I guess now what would have happened was it mauled him up pretty good, tore the house up while he was still in the house.
Yeah,
and then left, and then later the ambulance or whoever came and got him.
Yeah, he woke up and called 911, and they sent out an ambulance. So,
wow.
When I talked to him in the hospital, the doctor kept saying it was a bear attack. So I'm wondering how much influence had been placed on the doctor. So,
well, we know who was there. So afterwards, and it had to have been something through their reporting system that alerted those fellas,
exactly,
for them to be there before you got there.
Exactly. So there's some definite odd details going on that I'm not real privy to what's going on. can get a hold of that one individual. But that's not saying anything. He doesn't normally return emails.
Yeah, right. And like Don asked if it was male or female. I don't think we have any information on that because the recipient of that mauling was not talking. So
yeah, it's and like I said, this is just an odd case, and I've never been into a situation where it has been this violent.
Now, so do you know? You did know of some of the stuff. He had some things coming up missing around his place. Now, does he have is it a ranch or a farm that he has out there?
He's got a small ranch, and he'd had a lot of feed and sweet feed come up missing. So I'm kind of wondering.
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering.
That's what you said. He'd been gone for a couple of months, so that supply sort of dried up for a while.
Yeah, he was gone for like 3 weeks. So,
and that's what Mr. Black said when I contacted him about it. He said that he knew of a number of situations, particularly some that we haven't had a chance to talk yet on the phone, but he said that there were some very specific ones that were nearly identical. It happened in the 80s, where the thing got in the house and, apparently or outside and beat up whoever lived in the place pretty good like that, and it was always over this food. If the food all of a sudden they dried up, he said in every single case that's what it was.
Yeah, some kind of habituation.
Yeah, where they were used to taking stuff, and then when it wasn't there anymore, they got pissed off at whoever the person was that lived there and came after him.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering if that's not what the cause was.
He's pretty certain that it is. But
I kind of wondered about him spraying it down the water hose if that didn't have some kind of effect.
Well, I'm sure that didn't help things. I mean, when you piss off some wild creature, it's probably not. And in a lot of animals, there are lots of little. If something is done to them, like that, they've focused on people before and have done things that are out of character. So. I don't think it's out of the question for that.
I mean, look at that incident in San Francisco where that tiger had attacked those 2 kids that threw ice at it.
Yeah,
actually jumped the barricade and was mowing down on the 2 kids that was throwing ice at it. So,
right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to taunt wild creatures. I mean, because they get pissy, they'll come after you.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And that's, like I said, this is one of the oddest cases I've ever worked. So,
yeah,
but I'm kind of wondering, what's the precipitating events? What's the actual cause?
Yeah, it looks like from inside sources that it was probably triggered by the food thing. Of course, we don't know the other circumstances surrounding the whole situation, but. And of course, our friend Mr. Black, hopefully he will get back to me. He's looking into it himself. So it could be interesting what we find out. But
well, it's like I said, this has just been odd from the word go. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, but yeah, it's as soon as I got details, I called Joe or emailed Joe and said, "Hey, look, you need to call me now." And Joe got pretty revved.
Oh man, it was crazy. I was at work, man. My adrenaline was buzzing, and I felt
ready
bad.
To go. I know. I was
man,
thinking the same thing.
The guy was doing or anything, And I.
Oh no, I was armed to the teeth, and I had 2 big boys with me, and they weren't even allowed in the house. I was allowed in, but the 2 guys that were with me weren't allowed in. So I'm like, well, I got somewhat of a rapport with this individual, and I don't want to challenge him. It's
no, there's no point in it anyway.
Well, I mean, at this point, it was bad enough. I'd stopped him on a traffic violation and said, "Hey, look." And
it was a vehicle that came back. He ran the plates and came back Homeland Security. So
exactly.
Well, I mean, and they've got
a lot of guts, not a whole lot of
everything in their court. So they've got everything in their court. So and I don't necessarily think it's bad what they're doing. I don't believe in conspiracies or any of that nonsense. So they have very good reasons for whatever they're trying to handle with this. And I do know from other inside sources that they're not in complete control of this. In fact, they're very far from it. So they've got a tough job in their hands, basically. So there's no point in giving them a hard time. Did TW still there? Did we lose him?
It
says poor internet signal, so maybe he's having difficulties there. They've caught up on him. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Will, just to kind of get back to the main topic about your safety. I think you brought up a good point about strength in numbers, and I think to kind of go back to like what Gerald did,
right.
to like just pretend like didn't he like pretend like he was talking to somebody on the phone or something like that?
And I didn't know he was going out hunting. I just told him, I said, if you're out in that situation again, and this is one of my inside sources told me this. This is one through this, through these. The source information we found out that the feds use is they know that these guys, it's a numbers game. If they think there are more of you than there are of them, then their behavior is completely different than the reverse. So I told him, I said, now, if you happen to be in a situation where you're in a bad spot with these things, something's going on where you need to defend yourself, maybe Blab is having trouble. Looks like Brian's having some difficulties too. But the big thing is you want to pretend that there are more of you than there are. Like Gerald was out there by himself. He said that what he did is he started talking out loud like there were other people around, and that apparently gave him the edge to get out of that situation. So, and it's one of the reasons that my policy has always been with field teams. There should be a minimum of 4 people per team when you're out and about. And this goes back to when Milo knows this, when we were out like at the Clark Ranch and places like that, we always went in groups, and it kind of saved our bacon a few times. So, I determined back then there had to be, and the reason for it was for Clark. Remember the Clark Ranch? There were 4 of us there, and we were able to stand with our backs to the fire, facing all 4 directions, so that we always knew what was going on around us. And that's where I came up with the idea of minimum of 4 people in your team, because you can watch all the directions around you. So, and with these things, if they're trying to sneak around you or do whatever, you can keep an eye on all your different avenues of approach. So, and then with 4 of you, a minimum of 4 of you in the team, of course, you get more done. You cover more ground. And if these things are around and not in a good temperament, then there's more of you there, and their behavior is going to be a little more benign than it would possibly otherwise be. So, so if that answers the question, that's what I was shooting for there. Brian, can you? Let's see. Brian, he says he's there, but there's Milo calling in again. Let's see if we can get Milo back on here. Of course, that night at the Clark Ranch, we did have the bait with us that night too. So didn't we? Now we won't mention his name. He who shall not be named. He was the guy that everybody else could outrun. Everyone could outrun. He's the one that was grabbed and partially pulled out of the tent.
There's a plan.
We had our own theories about that.
I think we planned that subconsciously. I think, and I would enjoy that. I would be like, eat him.
about Paul's butt being grabbed. Well, it wasn't his butt; it was above his butt. But but we won't go into all that. Oh, Don's asking a question off topic.
Hey, he's all butt.
Don's asking, have you heard of Bigfoot ground pounding? I'm not sure what ground. Well, yeah, I guess I have heard that a couple of times.
Still there, huh, Brian?
Yeah.
I don't think if they're pounding on the ground, it's probably no different than smacking on a tree or rocks or anything like that. It's probably just a different method.
Yeah,
everybody here okay?
Having a bad night tonight.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm fine. Nothing bit me in the butt yet.
No.
Oh, I don't think
somebody else.
I don't think Joe can hear you.
Can you hear us, Joe?
I think he can only hear me.
You might have to try refreshing, Joe.
Damn, what
that's what Milo did.
Joe, he says that you might try refreshing.
Yeah, the blab.
Hey,
the blab is kind of a good format, but it has issues. So I don't know. Maybe at some point we can look at doing a different format that's got a little clearer, better signal or something. And it's not.
Yeah. Well, I know it's raining and thunder, or it's raining here. So
it's been kind of weird. It's been in the 70s here, but it's supposed to go back over 100 day after tomorrow for the next week. So I'm not really.
Yeah,
I know. I'm not really looking forward to that hot weather again.
Yeah, but hey, what when I missed a little bit when TW was talking, it was like he had two other people with him.
Well, TW did,
and they wouldn't let.
Well,
yeah. But
I don't want to say too much about these guys. We know, of course, I know because of my inside sources that there's there are different groups, from the government and not specific organizations or anything like that. This is something separate that handle this situation, these things, because, and not all situations. They kind of keep tabs on the bad behavioral ones because. And it's not, from what I learned, it's not that they're in full control. Far from it with these things. So they've got a pretty hard job. These guys that are doing this stuff. I mean, they're good at what they do, but they're having a real difficult time with it because these things are smart. They run circles around people. And TW, of course, knew about one of his buddies was on one of the SF teams that went after one. They was sent after one of these things once, and they finally caught up to it and shot the living hell out of it. They killed it. And then it wasn't so much a particular, and I think TW will verify this. It wasn't so much a specific caliber, and I've had people ask that, many times, if there was a specific caliber of rifle that I'd recommend or handgun, and the military found out that it wasn't a particular caliber, it was just a lot of firepower. It was more volume than it was size that actually did them in.
Yeah. Well, I know when I was in a Ranger battalion and stuff, and everybody, when we shoot at something, everybody selects a point of aim and goes for it.
But with these things, it's because of.
So I mean,
the sheer power of these things. It just takes a lot to take one of these things down. Or you have to be in just the right situation to do it.
Yeah, I know, Will. You talk about in the book. I think Renee recommended shooting them in the back, the lower back with a double aught, and then the slug.
Well, and this was back in 1975 when I first met him and John Green. When they were getting ready to go back to British Columbia, we were talking, and Green asked me, he says, do you have a 12 gauge? And I said, yeah, I have one. He says, is it a pump? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, here's what you do if you ever happen to see one of these things again and it's walking away from you. He said, load your 12 gauge with alternating double aught buckshot and slugs. He said the double aught buck, and they said to aim for the lower spine. And he says, well, if you can make out where that is, where you think that is, they said the slugs or the double-aught buckshot was for knockdown power, and the slug was for killing power. Now, these guys had thought about this a long time before I met them, as a 17-year-old. So, that was their plan back then. Now, I don't know if a 12 gauge would work. I mean, I guess it really depends. I can tell you from what I saw, I don't think I would have tried it with either my hunting rifle. I used to hunt with a 300 Savage, which is basically a 308 round, or my 12 gauge. I might have used the 12 gauge in self-defense, but I honestly don't think either one of those would have taken one of these things down. The sheer size alone was just too much, before they would have taken me out.
Yeah, but you would at least crippled it or tried to. I don't know. It's kind of like my grandfather's analogy. They may be kicking the crap out of me, like give me a buffet, but I'm going to give them a knuckle sandwich, I'm going to.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're defending yourself, absolutely, you do what you got to do. But just to go out and shoot one, boy, I don't know. I mean, you could do it with a 50 caliber, I'm sure. But if you're going to go hump one of those around the woods, I mean, if you had something that they use for elephant hunting or something like that, that might work. But boy, again, you're talking about carrying around a lot of weight and stuff like that. Don makes a good point. Shoot for the eyes. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where you're defending yourself, absolutely get a face shot. If you got 12, double-aught buckshot, face shot is your way to go. You knock out their vision. At least you got a chance. So I mean, there's lots of things you can talk about, but then that goes back also to having bear spray. With a bear, you don't just shoot the bear in the butt. With bear spray, you shoot them in the face, because you want to get them kind of discombobulated so you can basically get the hell out of there. And I've never used it. I've watched videos of people using it, and it seems to work pretty good. So I'm assuming pepper spray is going to work. Like Don says, it's all different when it's happening. Absolutely, it's a situation by situation thing. It's not, and Milo made a good point earlier. You got to be prepared. You got to prepare for all these contingencies that could possibly happen. And I didn't put it in the book about the field gear, but carrying bear spray, carrying defensive items like that with you in the event, and not just for these things, but there's other animals, bear and cougar and stuff like that. There might be some freaking psychopath out there that's a serial killer, hose his butt down with bear spray too. I mean,
hey, there's always the chance of he who never shall know what's not be named happen. Walking out there too.
Well, all you got to do is have food, and you throw it, and then you can run. You're going to outrun him. So, but yeah, I mean, it's there's lots of different things you can do, but with these things specifically, numbers is the big thing. If you have visible signs that you look like you're armed, whether it's a gun or a camera, that's a deterrent. Numbers is a deterrent. If you're all dressed exactly alike, and I mean right down to the smallest detail, it confuses them, because then they don't know how many of you there are. They can't pick out specific individuals. Talking out loud, and that goes back to military. The military. That's the reason for uniforms. It's so an enemy can't guess your numbers. And that goes back to thousands of years ago. So there's some very specific things like that do work, and these aren't my guesses or my opinions. These come from this information comes from these inside sources that know specifically these things work. So that's my offering. If you're out in a situation like that, numbers, you got to be prepared. How you look to these things, you got to keep them guessing. Throw them off their game where they're not confident enough to think they might have an advantage over you. And it's not necessarily a conscious thought on their part, like, oh, can I get one over on my little enemy out there, this human. It's keeping them guessing because they know we're dangerous. So if they don't know how many of you there are, that's a big plus. if you're prepared with things like, the bear mace and stuff like that, so that if they do, you do get one that's a little nasty tempered and tries to, mock charge you or something like that, well, you can hose them down and blind them or whatever the pepper spray is going to do.
Back to,
or if you're armed,
a little bit on the TW thing about the doctor said it was a bear attack in his house.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I know, that's kind of stupid, isn't it? Like the bear is going to open the door, come in, and stand over him while he's in bed, and then wait till he wakes up and then attack him. I mean, that's just what kind of nonsense is that? But what official report are they going to make? Oh yeah, Sasquatch attacked this guy in his bedroom. Of course they're going to say a doctor is going to make an official report and say a bear, because they don't, they want to continue practicing medicine and making lots of money. So,
yeah.
But yeah, out in the wilderness, if a guy was hiking on the trail or something and had this happen, then it's like then they could say, reason would say, well, yeah, okay, it was probably a bear attack. But inside the guy's house, in his bedroom, and it apparently waited for him to wake up and then pounced on him.
Right.
Beat the guy up, bit his finger off, threw him against the wall, knocked him out. And like he said, the guy was 6'5", weighed around 240, 250 pounds. Picked him up and threw him like a rag doll.
Because when my stuff was going out, I was just hearing broken audio, so I was just trying to catch up on a little bit. But TW said he was the thing got pissed because he got sprayed with a hose.
Well, then that was several months earlier, and I'm not really certain if it was the same one, because he said he was out there watering his tomatoes or whatever. The guy has a small ranch, and here this thing comes along. Well, his knee-jerk reaction while he was watering was to spray the thing down with the water hose. Probably, like he said, and like I said too, probably not the brightest thing to be doing. I mean, the last thing you want to do is go piss Mr. Sasquatch off by hosing him down.
I could do that. I would do that.
So,
that would have been me.
So I mean, and we don't know whether that had any relevance to what happened to the guy later or not. I mean, it could have, because these things do have a short temper. They hold grudges. There's accounts where we know they've held grudges of certain circumstances. So whether that has any bearing on it, we don't know. We have very limited information because they're not letting anybody in there. And TW, because he's gotten somewhat friendly with one of those two guys, they let him go in and look a little bit, but that's pretty much it. And they haven't responded back to him. Like he said, they don't exactly return his emails or anything. So it's pretty much what we have to go on.
Well, that's right now. That's what we have to run with.
And like I said, Mr. Black told me it's not uncommon. This has happened a number of times in the past. Very, very similar circumstances. So my guess right now is they're out to track this bugger down, and they're going to take it out probably. When they reach a certain level of behavior that's not, within the realm of acceptability to these folks, that's what they do with them. They take them out.
Wow.
And I say, Godspeed to them, because you don't want these things breaking in your house on a regular basis, and taking people and they do sometimes. And I'll give you a situation. Mr. Black told me of a story, and I think this wasn't all that long ago. It was on a highway in Pennsylvania, where it was an area of known activity with these things. There was a car that was stopped on the highway, door was open. The young lady was driving it, gone, just vanished. Purse, everything still in the car. And there was some kind of damage to the front of the car, Sasquatch tracks around the car. So, in that case, it appeared that the thing, either stopped the car, was hit by the car, took the occupant of the car, probably his lunch, and that was that. I mean, you hear about those things in the news, and you never will hear about those things in the news. And there was another case.
Because, they're so bizarre that people are going to...
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, what for the stories that are like when these things are oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Oh wait,
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Can you hear
what
us?
would you recommend for people?
It was Joe.
I can hear you. Okay. What would you recommend for those, I guess, households or whatever who are experiencing activity? What are some of the ways that you would sort of deter these creatures from coming? Like I've heard things about like certain lights, like certain infrared lights and things like that.
One of the big things, and this seems to be a commonality on homes where these things are coming up and doing things on a regular basis and really frightening the home owners and stuff, is that there's usually some kind of brush or access way right up to their house. So one of the things you want to do is have a buffer, an open area buffer of about 50 feet or more of any kind of, foliage or brush leading up to your house. Get rid of that. Motion sensor lights will keep them at bay. Although, now to give you an idea of how smart they are, in the Honobia situation, they put up sensor lights, and that kept the creatures at bay for a while. But then they would see the lights would be going on and off throughout the night. And what they found in the daytime was these things would take like sticks and branches, and they would lay them down right at the point where the boundary was where it would trigger the light. So they knew how far up they could come to the area where the sensors were. But that does work. Random noises, random vehicle traffic, regular patterns are what seem to kind of give these things a sense of security. So if there's an irregular pattern of behavior, lights, no secluded access to the home, things like that will usually deter them, and eventually they'll go away.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Things like that.
And these all come from my inside sources. There's no guesswork. We're not postulating what could be done. These are things that do work, and these were very specific pieces of information. So anyone in that situation, those are the things that you want to try, to deter these things. And these things can get very aggressive when it comes up to homes. We had one guy in Oregon here last year, and I think he had 4 small girls who were under the age of 7. And I think 1 or 2 of them were autistic. So these things were coming right up to the little girls' windows almost every night, and they were trying to get in the windows and trying to get in the house and things, and causing a lot of fear with this family. And we were able to send a team in there and implement some of these measures, and the creatures left. They were gone from the area. They're back in that general region, but they haven't revisited this home. So those measures do work. So, Milo, I guess I wanted to ask you about Brandy. How's things going with her place? Any updates on that?
We've been in email, but honestly, with the stuff with my mom and stuff, I just haven't had a chance to follow up on anything.
Okay, I haven't heard from her for about a week, so I'm not sure what's going on out there.
Yeah. No, I got some emails. I'll blast you to them.
Okay.
Or to you and have you check them out.
I know she sent me a recording, and I'm trying to remember what it was, a recent one. Another, not so much a vocal, it was one of these noises on the side of the house or something, but she's doing really good when it comes to getting out there and really keeping tabs on what's going on and documenting everything. So she's let her know she's doing a really good job with that.
I've been reading them. I just haven't had a chance to respond back to her, but a lot of it right now, this thing's coming right up to the house. So, and she has a fenced in yard and stuff in the back.
But they do have some brush that comes up close, though.
Huh?
They do have some brush that kind of comes up close, don't they?
No, not the only thing that's close is her neighbors on both sides of the house, and they're like 20 feet. They're in a cul-de-sac almost.
Okay. Well, these things can get pretty bold sometimes, and I'm telling you, I think it's largely due these days to the increase in their population, and the fact that we aren't, as humans, aren't going out in the wilds and doing things to animals that we used to do. 30, 40 years ago, we used to go out and shoot every damn thing. And today that just doesn't happen. We're the touchy-feely society today, so we're not hurting anything.
Tree hugger could hug one of them. That'd be fun.
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm advocating going out shooting everything, but there's two sides to every coin. On one side, we're kind of letting wildlife do what it does. On the other side, we're taking away the fear that wild animals had of humans for thousands of years. So when things happen to people by wild animals, and we see this more and more in the news, people shouldn't be surprised by this, because animals aren't afraid of humans anymore, because we're not doing anything to cause them to be afraid of us, which is what got us to our position on the planet in the first place. Now we decided, we don't want to do that anymore. So now animals are not learning that fear of humans. So now they're doing to us what they do to other animals in their environment. So these things are going to be no different. They're having less and less fear of humans. So when we see situations like Brandy's, where they're actively approaching homes where they wouldn't have stayed 20, 30, 40 years ago, they would have stayed out in the far, wilderness areas and places like that. But now they're actually coming in.
I mean, when we were kids, it seemed like we had to go a
long way
place and come by one by chance or something.
Yeah, and it's not so difficult these days, although they still avoid detection because they're very intelligent. And unfortunately, most people going out looking for them are not so intelligent. So there's that two sides of that coin. You have people going out with the wrong attitudes, the wrong thinking, the wrong knowledge about these things. And then you've got the creatures, on the other hand, that are very smart. They're very intelligent. They know how to maneuver around us, and we're not that perceptive most of the time. And we don't know how to. I'm not going to say we, the people going out doing this, people who are part of the Bigfoot community, because again, I do not consider us part of the Bigfoot community. We're not part of this little club, which is all nonsense, I think. But they don't know what they're doing in those situations. So, well, fellas, unless you got something else you want to bring up, we should probably wrap it up for this week.
No, I just wish TW would have stayed on a little bit longer. That would have been interesting.
He's probably on the pod. Oh, we got a caller. Let's bring the caller on first. We got a few minutes.
Okay.
Sure, we have questions. Yeah, it'd be interesting if we can actually get some more information from that situation going on down there, but I really doubt we're going to get any more. I mean, unless my sources contact me and say, hey, this is, A, B, and C, D, this is what's happening. But, I don't know. Sometimes the sources I have are quiet for a long time. I mean, they're concerned about being found out who they are also by the people that they either do or did work for. So, it's like Don's trying to come on, but it's not happening. Oh.
Yeah. Well, just respect that, and I'm just happy that we get what we get from that kind of.
And we're so much farther ahead than anybody else because we're fortunate enough to get that information, even though it's small pieces of information. It still puts us decades ahead of anyone else. So, well, Don wasn't able to make it on, so come back next week, Don, and we'll try to bring you on. We're going to wrap it up for this week, folks. Check out the website, williamjevning.com. Check out our Facebook page, the JRG Bigfoot Research Group. Join up. There's interesting stuff goes on. We don't do all the crazy stuff that the other sites do and talk about all the silly things. So if you're interested in joining one of the field teams or starting a new team, get a hold of one of us. You can go on the website, go to the field where it says Field Research Teams, and put your cursor over that. You've got a drop-down menu, and the teams that are up there if they're not in your state or location, you can still get a hold of one of the regional directors or any one of the teams, and they will get you to somebody who will get you set up as far as, putting a team together or joining one of the teams. And you can contact me directly at williamjevning@yahoo.com, and I can get you to whoever you need to be linked up with. So, fellas, thanks for coming on tonight. Appreciate everybody coming on here to listen and to get involved. And we'll talk next week.
Okay, dude.
All right.
Night, fellas.
Talk to you later.
Night.
Creepy things that it was doing. There was a male there also, but it didn't really do the same kinds of things the female did. The female obviously had a really nasty temperament or disposition, and they eventually...
It was the time of the month.
They were scared enough over a number of years with all these things going on that they left the property, they left the home, and then apparently whoever bought it afterwards continued having these kinds of encounters. So, these things are notorious for having nasty dispositions. So, and I'm sure, I know you guys, and Joe especially, you've heard similar kinds of stories.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you're talking about the same guy that we probably both know, the one you put me in contact with.
Right.
Okay, yeah. He's telling me some crazy stories, man, about that female.
Yeah.
And he said that female was just he had a special name for her. I don't want to say it over here.
You didn't share that one with me, but
yeah, it was a bad name, but it was pretty funny. He was mean.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. And I contacted our friend Mr. Black after TW told me what happened, and because we were trying to sort of figure out what was going on, why it would have done that, and Mr. Black said he related that there were several occasions that he knew about. Apparently, it has to do with this food stuff. If they're being fed, which really cracks me up when these people say, "Oh, well, they're leaving all this food out there for them," and you tell people don't do that because they get used to that. Look what happens with bears. Yellowstone was a good place where people used to feed bears out of their cars all the time, and then when they didn't get food, the bears would rip dark corridors off and things like that. They weren't very happy about no longer getting the handouts, and animals will do that. These guys are notorious for that. I know in the South, a lot of people that I've spoken to from that part of the country, and it was well known, quietly in those states that you don't feed the boogers because. If you stop feeding them, they get really nasty and can be dangerous. So that's one of these things, and again, that's what happened. And he said that's what happened in this situation. He wasn't doing it directly apparently, but there was enough foodstuffs lying around outside of his home that these things were taking periodically. Then when he was gone for a couple months, there was no longer these food supplies, and it kind of pissed him off. So that was Mr. Black's thinking is, and this was based on previous situations that he knew about also that were nearly identical. Yeah.
Hey, where was that? I mean, was it rural? Was it out in the mountains or high desert?
It was out in a forested area. I don't want to say the state or anything, but it was out in an area where there's a lot of elk.
Right.
And I think Joe, I don't know how familiar you are with that area, but it's heavily forested. And the guy's place wasn't near other people's, I don't know if it's a farm or a ranch or what it is he has out there, but I mean that one apparently has a particularly nasty disposition. Mr. Black also said, well, actually no, TW said he was theorizing that it might have been a reaction. Maybe it was a juvenile that he sprayed with the water hose, and it was the adult that came to teach him a lesson. But Mr. Black said no, that it's pretty typical if they're used to getting food from a human habitation area and then it's cut off, there can be some very violent situations happen. It's like another example of that's where I had some people putting out salt and mineral blocks, and they were taken. a couple of different runs we tested, and then the third time, nothing was taken. Well, as I come to find out, TW talked to one of these feds that came down there that deal with this stuff specifically, and they told him, they said, don't put stuff out for these things. He says you don't want them around any longer than they're going to be around an area. He said they took some of them, we took the rest of them. So, the results on all that were really mixed. We didn't really get any solid results from those series of tests because the feds were taking the blocks. But they told him point blank, they said they will, they tracked them, but you don't want them to be around because when you stop leaving them out there, then it pisses them off, then you get some violent reactions.
That is crazy.
Yeah, well, down in Florida, it's illegal to feed alligators for the same reason, basically.
It'll keep them coming around.
Yeah, because once people... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't personally. I don't want anything that has the potential for being violent to keep coming around.
Well, my mother-in-law at the ocean. I mean, she has bears come right up onto the deck.
Oh yeah, I can believe it.
Right on the deck, and it's climbing up a flight of stairs to get there.
Yeah, I saw something on TV the other day that was. It was some kind of a show that was going to be coming on or whatever, and it showed these bears climbing up on people's, on their houses and things, looking for food. They were getting in garbage, getting in dog food, stuff like that. And then, like with any animal, I mean, you could be, you could go out there and have a bad confrontation. I know when I was a kid, when I was 10, we ran into a black bear down by the swamp behind our property on the Puyallup River, and it was there after beehives that a friend of my dad's had out there. Thank goodness, it was after the beehives and not kids. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now. So, but it tore the beehives apart, took the honey, and they, we hunted the bear, but it was gone. We never did find it.
Yeah. I mean, I went up to Mount Rainier once, and in an hour, I saw a black bear, a red fox, and a deer. Just like that, going up to Snow Lake.
There's a place here in Northern California I go to, one of my favorite field locations. We see black bear in there all the time, every time we go in there. And they're always, between 300 and 400 pound bears. So they're big. There's a lot of animals up there. And mostly, you usually don't see the predators. They're the ones that keep out of sight. And then these things are kind of the same way. But so safety-wise, feeding them is not a good thing. You don't want to do that. And these people, I know they think they're Jane Goodall or whoever out there, trying to do things like, expert researchers spent decades doing with, known animals. If this is something that's not known, I recommend everybody stay the hell away from them. There's a certain approach you do to things, and going out there and offering them. Hey, there was the old guy. And used to crack me up. The old timer, some people might know the name Datus Perry. Datus Perry kind of looked like a homeless guy and sort of lived on the verge of that. But he lived with his ex-wife, and they had a house that was, not very good condition or anything. But he was in his 80s when I knew him, and he'd always say, well, maybe if you hold a flower up to the Bigfoot like this, he'll, be your friend or whatever. And I thought, man, you're going to be, Bigfoot poop out here one of these days because, they're not interested in the flower, maybe to as garnishment around you when you're their happy meal. But, when you again, like we've talked about this before, when you look at the stories, the bulk of them are not friendly encounters. Usually, they're very neutral encounters, or there's a degree of hostility of one type or another involved with the story. So. And even the neutral ones are usually them, it's just a quick sighting alongside the road, or they're heading off in another direction. But, these direct encounters usually are not very good.
Right. Yeah. That's probably the first time I ever heard it going into the house.
It's rare.
Where that That's like Hollywood, man. I mean, that's like scary.
Oh, it's crazy.
In your shorts.
Yeah, that's
changing your shorts action there.
That's the underwear changing moment deal there. See, that's that's the underwear changing moment. So
I know.
Yeah,
and that's crazy.
Now that I'm thinking about it too, I think.
So are they down there right now trying to talk to this guy, or?
Well, he's tried to send get the guy phone calls and everything, and they won't respond to him. So I knew the feds were there, and they've been working that area because this group that's been in the region are apparently fairly violent. It could very well be the same group even that TB and the deputy sheriff encountered, last year, where the Alpha apparently was behind the police cruiser and roared at him. It didn't just scream; it roared. Some people describe it as a lion roar. It scared him. It scared them both so bad the deputy pissed all over himself. So, I mean, that's a pretty frightening situation. And they were texting me while this was going on, and I told them, I said, you need to get the hell out of there right now. Get someplace, get to a Denny's or someplace where you can have coffee, get the poor deputy changed, get calmed down, finish out your night's duties, but you need to get out of there. And then, of course, he found out later that these two feds were there. They were camouflaged. They were filming and audio recording everything that happened with the cops. So, I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, let me send Milo this.
Well, you don't have to do that now, man.
I already did it. Right. It's all right.
That's
okay. If I stop talking, you guys can talk too. It's all right. I talk too much sometimes.
Oh, well, thank God for that. I enjoy that. But what's amazing is how fast the feds were there.
Yeah,
or were they always there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's some places that are real hot spots all over the continent, and I'm sure some of those places they monitor pretty regularly. But I'm trying to think how to say this where I don't give away my sources. I mean, they have ways of knowing what's going on very, very quickly. So I probably better leave it at that. So until I talk to Mr. Black some more in detail about that particular part. But, they do monitor these things, and they have ways of monitoring them and what's going on with them. So, and they have ways of chasing them out of the area. And I would suspect with that kind of behavior, since it actually went into a guy's house, I mean, he's damn lucky it didn't kill him. But it's right at that threshold of that kind of behavior. So my guess is they'll probably, and like he said, there's SF teams at some of the military bases scattered around, much more than it used to be. And Milo, you and I both know that they have them all over the place now. It's not just Bragg and places like that.
Right.
And I think the closest one to that region would be Fort Bliss, and he said there's a team there. So they've probably already they've probably already sent them in, with the attempt to kill one or more of that group. So, once they start moving towards that kind of behavior, I'm sure they can't tolerate allowing that to happen, because at some point somebody's going to die.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's kind of like when you get stung by a bee, you go after that crap, and family members and stuff. Once that happens, it's a feud, man.
And humans, that's what we do anyway. If something comes after us in any way, it's like, I mean, like the thing in Florida with the little boy. I'm sure they went and got what they say they got 5 alligators that were in the lake there. And I don't know if that's how many were there total, but I doubt those alligators are alive. So and even I always use the example of dog bites. Oh, we have just up in Appalachians, I saw a 9 to 10 foot hairy ape like thing really scary. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely. You know, if anybody says they weren't scared when they saw a Sasquatch, they didn't see a Sasquatch. You know, we get these people say, oh, well, geez, I go out and I talk with the big guy at night and I share things. What a bunch of crap that is. There is nobody in their right mind that's going to walk up to something that's that big and try to be its pal. I guarantee you that from having seen one of these things, there is no damn way somebody's going to do that. He says, in my room, out my window. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. I mean, it's one of those things it scares the living hell out of you. There is nothing. I don't know how to equate it to anything, you know, that people could relate to. I mean, everybody's had a scary situation or two in their lives. A much better chance. You can have things on you like bear mace. I recommend taking bear mace. Take a couple of road flares. You know, something you learned in the military is fire. Fire is a good friend. You know, I mean, if you have the chance to strike up that thing, it's sort of a, you know, course of last resort, basically. But at least it'll make you feel better if you got a couple of road flares in your pocket or your pack or whatever. But yeah, you know, being in numbers.
My grandfather used to have
the bear mace if you're armed.
My grandfather
and I'll tell you something I learned from people like Mr. Black. These things. And I always think about all the times I've been out, you know, thousands of times carrying, and, you know, DeHinden always told me carry at least 2 cameras. So I've always got 2 cameras strung around my neck, you know, with big telephoto lenses and stuff. And Mr. Black said that these things perceive those as weapons, as guns, the cameras. So in some ways that sort of, you know, may have prevented my being actually, you know, in a situation to encounter one and take pictures, because they would perceive those as weapons. So, you know, very intelligent creatures. They, and that's something Mr. Black also said. He says, you know, being they're a higher primate, obviously, and my belief is that they are a hominid, which is what we are, and there were numerous other hominids that have existed in the past. So while not being human, they don't have to be human to be intelligent, you know, with reasoning abilities and things like that. One thing he said that they observed these things actually doing or conducting what almost appeared to be like military style maneuvering, you know, but chimps do that when they hunt, and it looks very similar to that. So, but they're not stupid. So looking at us and viewing us as a threat, which, you know, I'm sure they rightly do, when they see things on us or around us, you know, that could be an advantage. If you got a camera, you know, that's with a big telephoto lens or whatever, you know, that could work in your favor. There's just some tricks, and again, but always numbers. If there are more of you than them, that's a big thing. Looks like TW finally got up here. I think Milo's having computer problems. He's awfully still there. Yeah.
Hey, Will.
What?
Is that oh
yes.
Is that Milo from
yes to your question.
Is that Milo?
Yeah.
Am I moving?
Is that Milo from your from the book with the Clark Ranch?
Oh, there's TW. I don't know what's happened to Milo. Let's see. I don't know if his computer froze up, I think. Let me see if he can. Oh, we lost him. Well, all right. Well, I guess. Oh, there's TW. Okay, we'll see if we can get him on here. See if he'll talk about. He'll talk about what happened. There he is.
Not
what's
much.
Going on,
just
TW?
enjoying the nice weather in northern New Mexico.
We were chatting a little bit about that incident.
I got
happened down there.
Like I told Will earlier, I got a friend of mine that's been having some incidents happen out at his place where at one point he actually had sprayed one down with a water hose. Well,
I can't remember the details of that. How did that come about? I mean, what did it just accidental happening? Did the thing walk up on him when he was doing something in the garden, or
tomato plants? And he heard something behind him, and there it was, and he just knee-jerk reactions, raised the water hose and sprayed it down, which probably wasn't his most stellar moment for brilliancy, but no.
Probably not the best thing to do.
But, yeah, he had an incident Sunday morning, Saturday night, where, not to go into too great a detail, actually the thing had walked into his house, and it wasn't a pleasant encounter. So right now I can't get a hold of John or his son. So I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I mentioned to everyone about just some of the particulars. You know, the guy that was standing over him when he woke up and then proceeded to beat the crap out of him, and
it woke him up out of a dead sleep. He started smelling something really nasty, and he kind of rolled over, and there it was. It jumped right on top of it. So, and it actually picked him up out of his bed and threw him to the wall. So, and John's not a small man. You know, he's like 6'5". He's a tall guy. Probably weighs a little bit more than I do, or maybe 40 pounds less, somewhere in there. But it wasn't a appearance. And even at one point, the rationale behind it is that he's probably in the front.
Uh-oh, we're losing some audio on your part there, TW. Yeah. I think so. That's it. They know he's on here and got to talk, and they're saying, yeah.
Hey, Will, I got a question about that. How did it break, or how did it get inside the house?
Well,
did it break the door down, or did it actually open it?
If TW gets back on, maybe he can shed some light on that. But all I know was that the guy didn't lock his doors, and somehow it gained access through one of the doors. So, but these guys, you know, I mean, if you look back at the old film Legend of Boggy Creek, I'm familiar with that. There was one of the scenes where the thing was up on the porch, and there were the two couples and the boy inside the house, and the thing reached through the window, and apparently had been messing with the doorknob. And I know of a number of occasions, even with the miners at Mount St. Helens, you know, the things were trying to get in. They were trying to get into the door. And I know of a number of other occasions. I've actually investigated buildings where these things had scratched on the side of the building, and the people inside told me that the thing was trying to mess with the door handle, not successfully. And one of the I've spoken with a few anthropologists and that about, you know, hands and things, and they very likely do not have an opposable thumb like we do. They have more of a hand that's designed more like an ape's hand.
Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Bigfoot Notes from the Field Blab, our chat. We have some interesting stuff going on tonight. First thing, you know, of course, go to the website williamjevning.com. You know, join up. Hopefully, I'm still working on getting the newsletter out there. So, you know, sign up for that. I think we have around 550 people already signed up for that. So, you know, if anybody's listening that signed up, have patience. It'll be out there soon. I know some articles are already written, and we're just waiting for some of the technical stuff to get them posted. I don't know if I mentioned last week. I think I did that. I finished volume 8 of Bigfoot Fieldwork 101. I should be getting the proof copy any day now. And as soon as I get it, it looks all right, I'm going to approve that. It'll be out there. So we're talking about the last volume of that series is on safety, and that's what we're talking about this evening. And to highlight that, I was just telling Joe and Milo, there was a situation that happened just a couple of days ago. You know, TW sent me a text while I was at work, and he said, "Hey, you know, ABC happened," and he sent you the same thing, Joe. Now you guys are all saying, "Hey, you need to call TW." So I got a hold of him when I got home from work, and in a nutshell, the situation had happened, and I can't remember. I don't know if you remember how he knows the guy, if he's a friend or just an acquaintance. Yeah. But the guy had a situation. This was several months ago where, and I can't remember the exact details of it, but he was fairly close to one of these things, or it came close to him, and water hose, and he sprayed the thing with the water hose. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but and I don't know if the two situations are connected at all, but the guy was gone for a couple of months on business or something, but these things had been taking food items from around his property. And of course, when he was gone, the food items dried up, and these things, we do know that if they're taking food or being fed and then all of a sudden that's cut off, it really ticks them off. There can be some real violent reactions due to that. So
apparently, if they're sitting there biting fingers off.
Yeah, well, what happened was the guy woke up, and he said that, apparently the guy, because of where he lives, he doesn't lock his doors. And now these things aren't known for going up and twisting a doorknob and opening the door, or even coming in a house very often for that matter. But apparently this one figured out or got the door open. It was in his house. When he woke up, it was standing over him in his bed. And it's unknown whether it was waiting for him to wake up or that just happened to be how it happened. But when he woke up, the thing starts beating the hell out of him. And he fought back, and during the scuffle, it bit one of his fingers off, and I guess messed up one of his eyes really bad. He called TW from the hospital, so he wasn't in good shape. So TW decided to take some friends, his buddies. And I don't know if they were cops also, but they went out there. The feds, who deal with this stuff, were already there, and they told him, one of the guys that he's gotten to know of this duo, told him, he said, you can come in, you can't take pictures. The other guys got to wait outside. This thing, apparently after it throttled him pretty good, mauled him, and bit his finger off, proceeded to tear the house completely apart inside. Did a real job on it. So the latest word, and hopefully we'll hear from TW at some point here during the next hour, that hey, there's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
That neither the guy that was beat up or his son will respond to TW now. So, that's all we know of that situation so far. But, everybody likes to talk about these things. You look on Facebook and elsewhere that, they're not going to hurt anybody. They're this, they're that.
Yeah.
They're wild creatures. And we have people these days don't seem to have a healthy respect for wildlife. Of course, there's, the awful thing that happened just a day or two ago in Florida, the little boy that was killed by the alligator in Disney World. There's the couple in Alaska that thought they knew brown bears, and now they're brown bear poop because the bears ate them.
Sorry to laugh.
No,
but,
but it's true. And there's example after example of these people who think they know better. The lady in Southern California, I think San Diego or wherever it was, they called her the tiger whisperer or whatever. She got mauled and killed by a tiger. There's all these examples we can find where people think they know better about wild creatures, and then something tragic happens to them. So with these things, this recent situation here is a prime example of that. They do stuff just like any other wild creature. You can't, make crazy assumptions that, they look kind of like us, so they must be like us. That seems to be the, prevailing thought out there.
It's crazy. I think in Yellowstone, somebody went up to pet a bison, and then it just gouged them, and they wonder why.
Yeah, there's tons of examples like that. It's crazy,
Yeah, it's funny because it's in some groups. People will get like really, really pissed if you say that they're animals. They get really offended.
Well, they're not your pet dog.
Yeah, And I've seen people write on there that they play with them in the middle of the night and things like that. I'm like, man, you guys are smoking something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. When I see stuff like that, I'm thinking, ooh, boy, I don't know what they're putting in their water, but I don't want any of it.
Fluoride.
Yeah. Fluoride.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where that thinking comes from. I've seen it, or like they have these things. I interviewed, and one of the things I was going to mention too. We're only about a couple of weeks from the new podcast I'm going to launch, and I decided to call it "Witness of the Unknown." The name I had chosen before wasn't all that great, so. And it's all right now. It's all witness interviews, of Sasquatch encounters. So I was interviewing a gentleman today, as a matter of fact, a couple hours ago, and some of the encounters that he had were like this. I mean, he had encountered one of these creatures, and apparently his mother, growing up, had some adverse things that happened, to her with this particular female Sasquatch. Apparently didn't like them and would come up and do things to the house, and it was some pretty creepy one kind or another. When you confront one of these things, I mean, when I say it's an underwear changing moment, it's pretty damn close. And some people I know of, it's actually happens where they've crapped themselves, or they wet themselves or whatever. I mean, it's never a situation where, oh, isn't that cool? I think I'd like to go talk to that thing. Oh yeah, he's the hell if I will have the wits to stand my ground. Can I ask what we should do, especially with my autistic brother who's scared? Probably the best thing you can do is if you are that scared. I mean, one of the reactions is you do stand your ground, or inadvertently. I know in my own situation, I walked in on that thing in the tree line, and it was a what the hell moment. Of course, that wasn't exactly what was on my mind at the moment, but you freeze, and all this stuff. And I mean, unless you're just sheer terror and you take off running, which is a lot of times what happens. But some people, if you're like me, you're just hit with so many things at one time, you kind of freeze. And when you freeze, these things, it kind of throws them off a little bit. Or like, in gorillas, I was reading today about gorillas again, because I'm working on the next Bigfoot 101 series book, profiling your area. And part of that is looking to see what different primates do and other animals do in their environments, and the kinds of things we need to look for to profile an area properly. But it talks about how gorillas almost every single time will charge. They'll do a mock charge, and these things do mock charges. He says, John says, be same thing as encountering a lion. Yeah, it'd be right up there with that. I mean, I guess because of the sheer size and the fact that it's so far outside of most people's frame of reference, you just freeze up. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to think. And then fear sets in, because you realize that this thing isn't running. It doesn't look happy. And sometimes they'll even move in your direction or do menacing things. So then it really, it's just sheer terror, really, what sets in.
Yeah, you got that fight or flight mode going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. I think you freeze for a moment, and then you do one of those two things, and you see something that big, fighting is sure as hell not something you're not thinking about doing. You want to get out of there.
Well, I think a lot of it is, it's just like being in combat. I mean, more or less, it's not that it's never going to be.
Oh, Milo's slowing down. There he is.
I'm not going to say this right off fan, but what you have to understand is any decision you make is the right, because there is no second guessing after it happens. No one else is. The armchair tactics people out there, the armchair generals. I mean, even when I'm in combat, somebody's going to say, "Well, you should have did this. Like, you should have been out here, dude." Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Says, how can you tell the difference between a mock charge and not seconds count? Don says, you're alive after a bluff charge. Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, like Milo said, you have seconds. And usually what happens, and I always, one of my favorite stories is the old Hugh Brown one from 1988. And I've told it a bunch of times, so I'm not going to recount the whole thing. But, Hugh stood there. The thing had been screaming as it was coming up the ridgeline at him and his friend. His friend took off. And, when it came out of the trees after the deer and everything, Hugh was in shock. And he said afterwards, he says, I must have been in shock more than I thought, because I just stood there and the thing ran directly at him. And then because he stood his ground inadvertently, it stopped. They stood there looking at each other for a few moments. Then it kind of looked bored and walked away. Gorillas are kind of the same way. If you stand your ground, they come to a screeching halt, a distance from you, and they kind of eyeball you, and then, I guess determine you're not a threat or whatever, and then off they go, hopefully. Running is not a good thing because, then you might get mauled. But I think in most cases, you don't really have a choice. Oh, I think Milo's having troubles with his computer. I just don't think it's much of a choice in most cases. I think our instincts sort of take over at that point.
Yeah, I know there's this one video on YouTube where it shows that I guess it's like a park ranger in Africa. And a gorilla charges them. I mean, it goes right up.
It's crazy, isn't it? Can you imagine something like that?
Is when any of that happens, it's like when we do stuff in the military, we do things
break its neck. Slipping and falling on the trail of crap I leave behind me. But I just don't think. I don't think in most cases you'd have the option to think about, oh, should I stay here or should I run? That's not what goes through your mind. It's just a reaction. Right. You either do or you don't.
Well, I think if you're out there, number one, hunting this, you should be prepared. You're not going out there with your knapsack and, I think if you're out there with the dead, with the idea of going hunting for one, you should be prepared.
Yeah. You better be prepared.
If you're prepared. I think a lot of it is.
Yeah, really, running's not going to do you any good. You're not going to outrun it.
I'll take my shotgun and double, I'll alternate my loads.
As Coyote Man says, take someone you can outrun. That's right. You have to take the bait, take somebody with you that, that's not going to run faster than you. And I used to take a friend of mine, Jack, with me all the time, and I could outrun him. And he used to say, well, at least take pictures, make me famous. And I said, don't worry, buddy. I'll make sure you're famous. We'll take care of you, But what do you do in that situation? And like Don said, if you're alive afterwards, then you did the right thing. There really isn't. You be prepared. Like Milo said, never be alone. If you're in, 2 or more people, you stand